Hey guys, just wanted to do a quick shop update, talk about a couple of things that I'm getting set up now that it's summertime here in Minnesota. First thing for me, doing a lot of live edge and just even storing a little bit of lumber in the shop or whatever the case may be. I've had a lot better results the better I can keep the humidity close to 50%. So I got a pretty good gauge. I've been happy with, I think it's not that expensive on eBay, Accurite. So I'm keeping the shop within a couple of percentage points of 50%. What I'm doing is I'm running a little household dehumidifier over here, and I'll empty that bucket maybe, if it's a humid day, maybe once a day. Otherwise, I don't always have to run it. And then I'm pretty happy with these units. I run one of these in the shop and one in the wood storage room that I have in the basement. This is a Premier 70 pint. And if you Google it, I think you can find a couple of spots where you can get them refurbished online. I think they're like 170 bucks or something. But anyway, it's got an accurate humidity gauge on the top. I like the controls. It seems to do a pretty good job of controlling the humidity in here. And it's been letting me kind of dial it in based on the fan speed. Sometimes you need to pull a little more on a humid day than you do on a day that's not that humid. But I've been really paying close attention to keeping the humidity as close to 50% in here as possible, and I think that leads to some better working conditions. So, and then this is just a little mobile AC that I run out the window. Keeps the shop at 80 degrees. It's pretty hot out right now, but it's better to be 80 than it is to be 95 in here. So, seems to get a little stuffy in here sometimes. So, here's what we have going. We got a few live edge projects right now. This got flattened today, so the shop's a mess. So we'll clean that up next. But this was flattened today and glued up. This is a book-matched walnut live edge dining table. And I'm really happy with the color on this slab. I don't know if you can see it here, but a lot of reds and purples in this. And the book match really came out nicely. So I'll continue to flatten it from here. Obviously there's still some low spots, but the glue joint came together very nicely. I've switched away from using these parallel clamps on live edge projects. I use them sometimes still, but I've had a lot better luck starting out with 3 of these panel clamps. These are the type of clamps that you hang on a metal rack, a panel clamping rack, so you can do multiple glue-ups. And I think I maybe have 8 of these, but what I'll do is I'll put these 3 down first. They're a good wide base. So when you're setting 2 big slabs on here, it's a good point to reference off of. And I think why they work so well on this live edge clamping is the height and the width of the clamping pads do a pretty good job. So this is an 8-quarter set of slabs here, and I got quite a bit of overhang here still, so this could work for 12-quarter. So I'll get the clamps laid out. I'll start the clamping with those 3, and then I'll fit the pipe clamps in around it. The reason I use so many pipe clamps on live edge, they've got the best clamping force, they're quick, they're pretty cheap, and they work well. And for a lot of, for a big joint like this, I think having some good clamping pressure is very important, maybe even more important than on a board table. And if you're able to offset your clamping pressure, with enough clamps on the bottom and enough clamps on the top, you can really keep the joint pretty flat. So, really happy with how this glue up went today. Sometimes these are a bit tricky to do by yourself, and I think this one came out nice and flat. So we'll be able to get this knocked down and level really quick. Here's the other one that's a little further along. This is a hard maple book match set. The book match isn't quite as vivid on this set of slabs, but I think the table's got a really nice smooth look. I've been pretty happy with how this one turned out. I'm going to let this one sit here for a few days in this 220 state before I hit it with 320 and finish it. I've been giving stuff a little time to breathe in between final sanding and finishing, and then coming back one more time, hitting it with the final sand. Just because as it gets a little more, I don't know, with these big slabs, if they're going to move at all, I don't want there to be any glue creep that's going to happen at the joint. I haven't had a lot of trouble with that. But it just gives it a chance where if anything like that's going to show up, I can hit it before I finish it, and it's not a big deal. So I think that's the biggest thing with live edge stuff is I am a little more patient with it than I would be on a board table. You know, bigger, wider boards, if you want to give them an opportunity to move if they're going to move at different stages, and that way you don't get to the point where you know, you're putting finish on something and then you notice the glue line is creeped a little bit or something, and you have to deal with sanding the finish off and reflattening. But the point is, I think give your live edge stuff a little more time. Here are two little side tabletops. These are actually the offcuts from this dining table, and they're just in sanding sealer right now. So they're gonna have a nice look actually when they're all together. We've done a couple of walnut ones like this with little matched walnut side tables. So these will be very similar, just in hard maple. And I think once these are kind of sitting in the same location as that table, it'll be a pretty cool look. I like the shape of this table too. It's got a nice profile. So anyway, those are the main projects we have going right now. Oh, the only other thing that I'm doing a little differently on the live edge stuff, and I think I forgot to film it in the video, was I am still doing the initial cut with the track saw, but if I can handle the slabs and if they're still not ridiculously large, I've been running them over the jointer one time, and it seems to tighten up the joint just a little bit more. Sometimes it's a bit tricky to get the grain orientation correct before you joint the board. Sometimes you get the joint against the grain just because if only one side is flattened, you're kind of stuck with that sometimes. But all in all, it's kind of a good technique if you can, and especially if you can get somebody to help you. If you got two people to run a big slab like this over the jointer, just to barely kiss the edge, where if there's any variation in the track saw, sometimes when you're running the track saw and you're cutting a big live edge, if there's any tension in the wood, if it just pulls your track saw a little bit, it'll lead to more of a variation than you might think. So just kind of running that a really shallow pass over the jointer after you track saw it can tighten that joint up even more, which is just going to make your alignment and your clamping better. You know, I've done domino joints on live edge and stuff, and honestly, I think that 90% of the time I don't use dominoes on these big glue ups. It's kind of like if you do a dry fit and you do your dry clamping and you know kind of where everything's going to be and you've got your layout lines for how you're going to line the grain up and stuff like that, sometimes it's easier to just kind of freehand it, so to speak, especially if you know you're still going to be kind of doing a little bit of flattening after the clamp. So anyway, that's probably a little more detail than I normally have in a shop update, but just kind of some evolutions that I'm having as I'm doing more live edge projects, and I wanted to share some of that stuff. A lot of the videos I see online are just kind of people working, and I'm not trying to do how-to stuff, but every now and then I want to throw in some of the things I think I'm learning as I do more of these types of projects. So hopefully you guys find these interesting. I'll keep trying to do these every now and then, and I'm trying to stay a little more disciplined about getting videos out. But sometimes it's just more fun to work without filming, so that may still happen occasionally. I think I'm probably only filming like 10% of projects right now, but that's all right. So anyway, thanks for watching.